I was doing everything. I was picking up material. I was managing the job. I was out there like cleaning because I didn't want to, I guess I didn't trust people. I didn't want to have extra expenses, but I realized if I would have taken the bite and brought somebody on sooner to do that, I think I could have escalated myself a little quicker into the market. I'm ready to, branch off and do my own thing. He goes, I've been waiting for you to leave, man. He goes, I told you, I've always wanted something better for you. Dude, I can't support you your whole life. And so he goes, I want to see you flourish. He goes, I can see you being a more successful person in the industry than I was, and at an earlier state too.
Is he still building?
He's still building. That man builds, I want to say about, 4,000 doors a year, if that.
4,000 doors a year?
Yeah, he's a big contractor. We're doing about 800 a year.
So you're a big player. You're not like a small fry. You're a big guy.
No, yeah. But compared to him, I'm like, I'm just a little goldfish in the fish tank, right?
Welcome to the Builder Straight Talk podcast with your host, Michael Krisa. Get the unfiltered truth from the trenches of construction, real estate, and funding. This episode is made possible by our parent company, Sound Capital, funding built for builders.
Hey there, my friend. Welcome to Builder Straight Talk. Michael Krisa here, the host. And in this week's episode, I'm really excited to introduce you to Adrian Avila. And he owns a company. He's the founder and president of AVICA Construction and Development. And what a fascinating conversation I had with Adrian. Like so many builders I've interviewed, he started at a very young age. In his case, he was 8 years old when his uncle was already taking him to the construction sites. And at 8 years old, he could already read a blueprint. I mean, how friggin' cool is that? Jump forward to today, AVICA Construction averages over 800 doors a year in residential, commercial, and industrial. The really fascinating part of the story occurred when he was at 29, and he had a life-changing experience. Actually, he had a death experience, and he was literally looking God in the face. From that, he had to change the way things were being done at AVICA, or it was going to be game over in years to come. And literally from that, there was so much more that we touched on in this conversation, like the lessons he learned from starting young, why letting go is the key to scaling your business, how to prepare both personally and economically for the storms that always are waiting for you as a builder, and so much more. So once again, I hope you enjoy this episode. Please give us a like, share, and take the time to comment below. And as always, we welcome your feedback. So once again, Michael Krisa here. I hope you enjoy this episode. Adrian, my friend, welcome to today's call. I'm really excited to have you here. You're a consummate builder. You started when you were 8 years old, and I'm going to take a guess. That's when you first started growing that beard. Age 8 or 9?
I would say 8, but some people tell me I was born with it. So, I'll take either or.
Coming from a follically challenged person, my friend, you are my envy. I think that thing is just awesome. And if I could, I would. So let's just, cut through the fluff or, cut through the hair, as it were. Let's get right into this interview. You started off when you were 8 years old. So let's go back to that story. Tell me how it began.
Yeah. So it started off with who I still consider to this day my mentor. It was actually my uncle. Mom's brother was going to Cal Poly Pomona. And during that time, he was actually, going in for civil engineering. And I pretty much was there by his side, day in, day out. And I would see what he was doing. He would show me what he was learning. And as he was learning, he was teaching me. And so while he was teaching me, I was learning. So I was able to effectively read blueprints at a very young age due to his mentorship. And as time went on, I would go on to job sites with him as years went on. And soon I was hired on by him when he started his own company. And, broke off with him back in 14, 16. I branched off and started my own company and, never looked back since. And to this day, he's a mentor of mine, right? I call him on a month-to-month basis too. Like, hey, this is what I'm going through. What do you recommend? This is the trends I'm seeing. How would I pivot? So always looking out, with him.
That is so cool that you still have that mentor. So you're gathering all this knowledge. In essence, you're an apprentice. You're learning under a master craftsman, builder.
Right.
And then when did you got to that point? What was it that triggered, this has been great, but I have to go out on my own versus staying with him to grow the company? Like, what was the mindset that made you go down the right path versus the left path?
He always wanted something better for me, right? And that better was always, hey, I want you to go off and start your own company. And that's kind of, to me, it was like, no, I'm enjoying being here. I'm enjoying, working with him, being with family and being able to support. But I think the tipping point of that was just, I think he purposely just gave me like a glass ceiling basically and was like, this is as far as you're going to go with me. And to me, I'm always eager I always want more. I want more. I want more. And so I said, you know what? I think it's time for me to break off. And I tell him, hey, uncle, I'm ready. I'm ready to, branch off and do my own thing. He goes, I've been waiting for you to leave, man. He goes, I told you, I've always wanted something better for you. And
Yeah.
so
Like, how long do I have to leave the door open before you take the hint? Is that what he's basically saying?
pretty much, right? He's like, dude, I can't support you your whole life. And I was like, you're not supporting me. And then he goes, you have a job with me, And so he goes, I want to see you flourish. He goes, I can see you being a more successful person in the industry than I was and at an earlier state too.
Is he still building?
He's still building. That man builds, I want to say about, 4,000 doors a year, if that.
4,000 doors a year.
Yeah, he's a big contractor out here in Southern.
Okay. Well, the logical question is I'm going to ask you. So on average, what are you doing per year?
We're doing about 800 a year.
So you're a big player. You're not like a small fry. You're a big guy.
No, yeah. But compared to him, I'm like, I'm just a little goldfish in the fish tank, right?
I suspect, yeah, if you want to say small fish, maybe I would call you piranha if you want to talk small fish. Big bite, yeah, for a small fish. Wow.
But he's been a great mentor for me. He's actually helped me in ruts. So I gotta give a lot of credit to him, right? For shaping me into the person I am today and really going forth and building my own empire, I guess you could say.
So let's talk about that because I really want to focus on this part because this is where AVICA was born, basically the company. Before I open that door, AVICA, where do you come up with the name and is there any kind of significance to it?
Yeah, so it's actually my initials of my name. So AVI would be my last name, C would be the middle name, and then A would be the first name. So put it all together, it's AVICA.
Oh, I thought there was going to be some magic word that if I say it, doors would open, gold would rain from above or something.
If you say it loud enough, you probably get a new home, right?
Oh, is it that easy? I'm going to write that one down. Okay, I may hold you to that, my friend. Let's go back to that point.
Yeah.
You've decided now, between the two of you, it's almost like the decision was made that, hey, Sonny Jim, it's time for you to grow up and do your own thing.
Right.
Tell me, what was it like once you made that decision? Like, is it scary? Is it exciting? What are the next steps that you took? Because you're not alone in doing this. There are so many other builders that are probably at that same point where they're ready to let go. It's almost like the child leaving the home. You're basically now you've gone to school, you've got your education, now you're ready to go forth into the world.
Yeah.
Tell me about that point.
I could remember I was finishing up a project for him in Whittier, and I was just like, it was a couple months, I guess you can say, before the end, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm really ready to, jump into the waters. And at that time, I was already kind of marketing myself, like, hey, I'm going to be branching out just to friends that I knew. Hey, if you know anybody looking to do a remodel, I'm willing to do it. Start at the bottom, right? And work my way back up. And so with that, I think I had a lot of support from my circle of friends that were like, hey, so-and-so is looking to remodel a bathroom, remodel their kitchen, remodel their home. So I was doing those little things. And so when I tell my uncle, hey, I'm ready to I'm ready to go out to the world and do this on my own. And he goes, great. He goes, I got you a client. And I was like, huh? And he's like, go do, this job is probably worth 1.2 million. Like, I'm not going to do it. Do it. I'll let him know that I don't want to do it and I'll recommend you. But, you have to be able to sell yourself and be able to perform the job at hand. And I said, okay. So that was, I guess, my big, hey, AVICA's born and this is the job we're doing. It was an amazing home we did in Claremont and we really took it from the ground up.
Now, this was a reno, Adrian, or
At
this
least
is a build?
a new construction building.
Wow.
You
So
can
1.5 million in
Yeah,
2016. So that's like what, 2.5 million in today's money?
yeah, kind of, I wanna say. Pretty close. And an opportunity like that doesn't come to anybody, right? And at the end of the day, it was the execution that we did, and the client was really happy with it, and it kinda gave us the first foot out the door, right? And just really making a presence in the industry.
So looking back at that first build,
Mhm.
so being the big bearded guy that you are today, what would you tell the Adrian back then? Is there anything that you would have done differently? Like, I don't want to say mistakes, because I don't think there's such a thing as a mistake. It's something that you'll avoid next time, and it's the cost you paid to learn.
Right. So I always look at, I always call them lessons, right? There always are lessons that were learned. But if there was something I would tell myself back then, I would have told myself to start earlier, right? To have branched out a little earlier. Just because I was very timid. I don't look like I am, but I was I wasn't sure of myself. Sometimes like, oh, am I ready to take that leap? And just second guessing myself. That second guess did start showing up in other avenues of my business, right? Second guessing hiring somebody on board. Like I would have brought people on board on the management side of things a lot sooner. I was doing everything. I was picking up material. I was managing the job. I was out there like cleaning because I didn't want to, I guess, I didn't trust people. I didn't want to, have extra expenses. But I realized if I would have taken the bite and brought somebody on sooner to do that, I think I could have escalated myself a little quicker into the market.
I wonder if part of it, my friend, is that your name is on the company. At the beginning, because you're just starting out, everything is about the name. And I mean that in a good way. Whatever you touch is going to have your name on it. And nobody at that point can do it like you can because it's your baby.
Right.
Right. But then there must have been a point in your life when you realized I can't do this on my, because if I'm doing everything, and this is the old, Michael Gerber book, The E-Myth. If
Mhm.
I'm working in the business and I'm doing everything, I'm doing the
I'm not
accounting, I'm
working
doing
on it.
I can't work on the business. So was there like an epiphany? Was there a moment where you're in your truck, it's 10 o'clock at night, you're eating a hamburger from the night before and you realize there's got to be a better way?
No, actually, it wasn't something so easy. It was actually a drastic moment in my life. I was at that job site. I was not feeling well. I just, I, I called my significant other. I was like, "Hey, I'm going home early today. I just don't feel well. I really need to just like take the rest of the day off." So I drive myself to the house. I plop on the couch. She happens to get off of work early as well. She shows up and she said, "Adrian, get your ass up. You're pale as a ghost and you look like you're about to die." I was like, "Man, there is nothing wrong with me. Trust me." And so I go look in the mirror and I can just see I had like no color whatsoever in my body. I had a pain in my chest. And so I said, "All right, you know what? I'll give in a little bit. Let's go to the hospital." We go to the hospital. I'm sitting in the ER and now the chest is just like, it feels like someone's digging a heel right into my chest. And so you're telling me, "Hey, there's no bed available. You just got to sit here and, we'll be checking on you." And so finally get into a hospital bed. They tell me, "Hey, you've had a pretty big heart attack." And I was like,
Well,
"What?"
how old are you at the time?
Yeah, I was probably 29 at the time, I think.
Your first heart attack at 20. I'm saying first, like there's more to come, but a
Yeah,
heart attack at 29.
at 29 and it's at 29, 30. And so I'm sitting there, I'm like, what the heck is wrong with me? Right. Like I used to work out a lot, ate really clean. I would do everything the doctors would say. Right. And so I get in there and this doctor comes in, she says, "You're diabetic." And I said, "No, there's something more that's wrong with me because I eat really clean, I work out. Like, this makes no sense." She's like, "Well, we're going to keep you overnight. We're going to do some studies on you." Next morning, I wake up and my leg is like the size of a watermelon, basically. And so I call the nurse and I said, "Hey, I need to talk to the doctor that admitted me because I told her there was something else wrong with me." And so a little backstory is maybe about a year before that, I had fallen into a ditch at one of the job sites. And I had like twisted my leg and went to the doctor, MRIs, everything looked good. But I guess there was a tear that was further up the leg between the knee and the groin. And there was a tear there, I guess, that had never been fixed or addressed. And so through that whole year, it became an abscess.
Oh, wow.
So that abscess got me really sick. That's what caused me to get diabetes. It caused me to have the heart attack. So what was that change in life? Was that moment basically that really said, hey, Adrian, like you're always a team player, but you're not being a team player today. Like you have to be able to pull yourself away from the business so that it can grow. And that was kind of my initial stepping stone pretty much to my next level, I guess. But it's
So yeah, this wouldn't be God whispering in your ear. This is him slapping you on the side of the head saying,
yeah,
wake up, man.
yep, exactly. I was, blessed. My brother-in-law came in and helped me out for a while. He was in HVAC and he helped me out for a while I was growing the business. And that allowed me to really get out there. And
So
then,
at this point, as you said, you're 29, 30, give or take. Are you still a one-man show or you've got people working with you?
well, I had guys that I had my concrete guys, I had my framers, I had my stuff, I had my crew basically.
Okay.
But when I talk about like, I didn't have anybody managing, right? I had the field stuff, I had the field guys all taken care of. They knew what to do. But when it came to like management, estimating, things like that, I didn't have that. I didn't have the back office stuff, I guess you could say.
So then you started looking for a general contractor to fill in your space?
No, I am a general contractor. So what I was
Okay.
looking for was a project manager, an estimator, right?
Okay.
A superintendent. That's what I was looking for. In doing so, it allowed me to really take a step back and not be the go, 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 go guy, like doing everything and anything. Now I was able to sit at the office and actually, okay, let me put an estimate together because I'm glad I have this one job going, but now I need the next one to come. And I need a couple more so we can continue to grow. Right. And so I didn't just have to look out for myself. I had to out for the guys that were working with me because they expected to be on to the following job after. And
Well,
so
yeah, they want regular employment. Otherwise, you're going to pack up and go somewhere else.
exactly. And I had some really talented people back in the day. Right. And so again, it was just being able to take that step back, but I was able to do that while at the hospital. I was like, okay, forget it. This is what I'm going to do, and this is how we're going to do it. And so I was in there for about a good week and a half in the hospital, and that helped me mobilize and get, some help. And I realized, okay, yeah, I want to do everything myself, but it's better when you have a team actually behind you helping you.
So when you were starting to look for that project manager, how did you do that? Ad in the paper, ask around? Like, how did you actually find the guy? And what were you looking for in a project manager?
See, to me, I didn't really care about, if they had everybody wants that 10 years experience of a project management. To me, it was if I can find someone who was motivated and someone who wanted to learn something new and could communicate, those were the three things I wanted, right? And when I found the person who had those three qualities, but more importantly wanted to learn, I was able to groom them, right, to the way I did processes during the field. And then I also learned from them of what they would do better, right? So I was learning and they were learning at the same time because not my way is always the right way, right? So when you have somebody else looking into your box, you're able to get a better understanding of what's missing in your box.
How did that make you feel? Because this is like it's coming full circle now that you're the mentor.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel looking back at it was your uncle that was your mentor?
I mean, it was great because I felt, because even when I was looking for the person, I told him, like, what is it that you're looking for? He goes, Adrian, those are the three things. Someone who's eager to learn something new, someone who can communicate. And I was like, man, okay, you know what? Like, I got to find that person who's eager to learn. And I think that was the key right there, was the person that was ready to learn something new. And for me, being able to mentor, it felt like I had gained another step, right? Because now it was now teaching somebody else how to fish,
Yeah.
right? And letting them go through their struggles, right? But I was able to help them because I had gone through those struggles while working with my uncle, right? And so
Wow.
now I was able to like kind of make them grow faster and groom them faster in a way that they were able to really help me.
So do that again. The three pillars, if you want to call that. They got to be eager to learn,
Eager to
a
learn,
good communicator.
good communicator. My big thing is always someone who wants to communicate and is eager to learn, because those are the key things in construction, no matter what. Communication is key, and then always wanting to learn, because there's always things out there that are coming up that we need to keep up with. And so, I mean, whether it's software, whether it's codes, whether it's a trick of the trade, right? There's always something new that we're learning. Even to this day, I'm learning things on a monthly basis, where I keep myself in tune with, whether it's with the NHCA, like learning about new funding for developers, or even code changes that are coming up here in California. Where I'm always looking to learn, and I do the same thing. I'm always sharing things with people of, hey, check this tip out that we're learning, right? I'm always giving people those opportunities to learn as I'm learning as well.
Well, you say opportunity to learn. This is my almost my invitation to say something nice about Sound Capital, who's our parent company that makes this podcast possible. And the eager to learn part is that the builders that are listening in right now should know that this is a private fund. So they have a lot more latitude than a bank does in terms of how they lend money. Their criteria, I don't want to say is looser, but what they're looking for is the relationship first.
Right.
And so they judge the builder, like a guy like you would be a perfect example. What do you bring to the table in terms of experience, what you've done? That's what counts the most for them versus what do you look like on a balance sheet.
Right.
So sound capital. And the other thing too that I find magnificent is when they guarantee the funding once you've been approved, the money's going to be there. So
Yeah.
that's one less thing to keep you up at night and not worry about, you can focus more on your beard than, anyway, that's my plug for Sound Capital. Check them out. They're awesome and they make this show possible.
Okay.
So I think when I asked you about the three things and you said eager to learn,
Eager to learn and communication, and the third
communication, the
and
third one could
one's
be
so-
anything. Here's what I'm thinking, that they have to be willing to implement.
right.
So it's one thing to learn something, but it means absolutely nothing if you don't apply it,
Exactly.
right?
So that's why I tell like a lot of my coaching clients is like, look, I can give you all the resources, I can give you all the books to read, I can give you all the tips and tricks, but if you can't go out there in the field and implement what you've learned, you're going to stay stagnant. You're not going to grow.
Okay, hold on. I got to jump on something there. You said coaching clients. So
Yeah.
are you coaching builders now too?
I coach builders as well. That's
Holy jumping, man.
whether they're builders or subcontractors. Like I do guide them and I do coach them on scaling their businesses. Some of the trades that have their licenses today is because I've helped them sign off on a general contracting license working with me. To me, it's not always about keeping these guys and keeping them making a smart paycheck when they can go work for multiple builders and make more money and not just work for one.
Well, it's also helping the industry because there's such a demand right now for good quality labor. And if you're helping teach them,
Yeah.
then you're addressing the problem. Again, I'll do another selfish plug for Sound just because you teed it up so nicely. They've got this big, you've probably heard the expression BOHOG, big, well, it's perfect for you, big, hairy, audacious goal.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard that before?
No,
There's just, yeah, they want to, in 5 years, fund 1 million doors.
wow.
1 million doors. So they're looking for builders like you to partner up with because there's such a demand right now for housing. And, I don't mean to use that expression, let's make America great again, but without housing, you'll never have a great nation.
Right.
And their focus is on, we got to make this happen. And talk about pressure, 5 years, 1 million doors. I'm going to be coming knocking on yours, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big goal to have, but with the right resources, I think anything's possible, right?
Right, builder partners. Well, you know this. You've gone from working with your uncle. Now, what do you've got, 15 employees? How big is your company?
Yeah, so we have about 18 employees, but we have about access to, I want to say about 250 tradesmen that we can get to, depending on the size of the project that we have.
So break down the hierarchy of your employment structure.
So it's really simple. I mean, you have me at the top as CEO, founder, and then we have a CFO, but our CFO is actually a accounting office that does all the accounting, accounts payable, receivable, does everything that has to do with the actual financing part of it. And then we have our secretary in-house that's kind of managing, I guess, correspondence between project managers. And then we have our project managers and superintendents that are just working together to keep schedules and budgets on time.
And how do you keep them all on point? Do you guys meet weekly and you go over your goals and what you hope to achieve? How do you, I guess the important thing is you have a vision
Right.
of where you want the company to go. How do you reinforce that vision and instill it in the employees so you know that we're on the right path?
And so, we're very high level when it comes to our weekly meeting. It's, you know, everybody knows where everybody's project is at pretty much. So if one superintendent's down, they already know how to pick up everybody's slack, right? And so being able to have that weekly meeting where we discuss issues, we discuss client reputation. That's one of our big things. Is just, the construction industry can get very hostile really quickly, right? You get a lot of testosterone running around and people could become hotheads. And that's one of the things we tell people is like, no matter what, we don't say the client's always right, but you know what? Let's give the client the opportunity to be right. And let's just make sure we do our research and we're able to provide that information back to them when we need to.
Tell me more about that process then. You're aware of Michael Gerber because you acknowledged that when I said E-Myth.
Yeah.
Have you got systems in place then?
We do. We have a project management system that we use, Builder Trend, which keeps all the dailies, change orders, all the delays, the schedule, everything's on there. Communication with client is all on there. Really transparent. I mean, the banks love it because, at the end of the month, it's like send the report of everything that's happened in the month, sends it out to them, and they like it because it shows photos, daily reports, possible change orders or, delays, whether it's city, environmental, design-wise, everything's, pretty well documented. We use WhatsApp really to communicate back and forth with the team, basically. So if anything is going on there, like everybody knows, what problem they're having at one site that might be an issue at another, right? It could be, hey, this sub's not performing for us, and just things like that. Or it's, hey, is there an extra guy that you can send over to this job because we need some cleanup? It's all like a self-efficient ecosystem that's working. Basically, I can step out of the office like I did a few weeks ago, and disconnect, and the office is still running. Right? We're able to. I'm able to like check in and just be like, kind of like the ghost, just like, all right, everything looks good, looks good, looks good, looks good. And then I see a problem and it's like, oh, it's getting resolved. Let them grow from this. Let them learn. Let this be like the learning experience. And that's where I feel like the coaching part comes in. It's like, don't jump in unless you really have to, right? So that's one of the things that we do. And it's a great conversation piece, at the beginning of the weekly meeting. I'm like, hey, so did anybody catch this, or did anybody, realize, this wasn't a big problem? And then it just, you start breaking it down and it was able to be resolved within, an hour, 2 hours. We use it as an opportunity to coach.
Adrian, how did you go from so you're in the hospital bed, right? You realize, okay, we got to make a change, right? And now you're running this juggernaut, right? And you're at the point now where you're at the top and you can see all the pieces on the chessboard moving around. I'm trying to figure out, was there a shortcut? Like, how do you share this with other builders that they can get there? And I know I'm not being fair to consolidate 10 years of experience into a simple little soundbite, but what's the first step that they have to make to free themselves up?
I think it's just taking the bite out of the bullet, right? The issue at hand is everybody's just looking at that dollar sign. What's it going to cost me to bring on this employee that's going to help save me time and a headache, right? And instead of looking at it, well, how much is that, that key player going to bring into the company, right? A project manager makes about $110,000 a year on average, right? But how many projects can that project manager manage at that point is what you got to look at. And being able to see that means you can bring on more work. And so to me, it was just like, I didn't want to take that, that bite and be like, man, that's like 90 grand out of my pocket that I'm going to be spending. And instead I'm like, you know what? No, I could make that 90 grand back up pretty quickly if I can get more jobs and have that assigned to that project manager. Then I'm able to bring in that work. And now, having that project manager learn and do these projects, guess what? When I hire on the next project manager, I don't have to coach him. That project manager now is the teacher that's going to help them succeed because they know the processes, they know how we're running and things like that.
There's that magic word, and you slipped it in there so elegantly. It's about the process.
Listen,
And it's no different than McDonald's. You don't have to reinvent how the fries are made. You've already got it documented.
right,
You don't have to teach them how the fries are made because the guy that's making the fries can show the next guy.
right.
So brilliant that you learned that so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, process is one of the biggest things that I've been taught through all my, I've gone through a couple coaches in my life, and everybody was just like, "What is your process? What is your process?" And so I took some weeks. I went actually about 2 months, and I was, just developing processes for the most simplest thing. Like, what is the process of building? Right? You go through environmental check, you go through this thing, you go through that, right? And just creating it. Because to me, it's like if I ended up in the hospital again, could I give the book to somebody and have them execute what we do? Right? I didn't have that. And to this day, we're always updating our processes, right? Because something changes. They're very, minute changes that we make, but, doing the hard part was creating those processes from, what's the project manager's job? What is your superintendent's job? Right? How is it that we do billing? How do we keep track? What do we consider delays? When there's a schedule change, what's the impact and how do we identify impacts? And how are those impacts, translated into dollar amounts for the client? Those are the things that we've looked into.
This is exciting stuff, Adrian, because you're talking about a scalable business. Right?
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, if you decided, I'm going to hang up my hammer, you really have a tangible asset that you can sell.
Right.
Because what I've found from the interviews that I've done, and the sad part is a lot of builders don't think about the end in mind, how they're actually ever going to spool out of this. Like if they don't have a successor, like a sibling in the family that wants to take over, they don't really have anything to sell because they've been doing it all themselves, right? Or they just let it die on the vine.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you've got a saleable business. So let me ask you that. You strike me as being a very savvy salesman. Is there like a 5-year, 10-year goal? Is the plan to eventually sell off the company, transition out? What's that look like for you?
To me, I've never looked at retirement as a plan. To me, it's always been financial freedom, right? I'm able to step away from the business at hand, be able to go on a vacation and not be stressing out about is something going wrong because I'm not there, right? Don't get me wrong. I still get those, like, what am I missing out, right? And that's why I go back and I read text message, like, our threads and everything like that. But to me, I don't want to get out of the game, right? I enjoy what I do. I mean, like I tell you, I've been doing this since I was 8 years old, learning construction, and I just feel it's in my blood. So if you cut my veins open, you're gonna find some waterproofing in there probably, and who knows what else.
A couple nails will fall out or something.
Right. And so to me, like I'm not looking for an exit strategy. To me, if I could have an organization that is self-sufficient, self-running, that's all that matters to me. Because at the end of the day, I enjoy what I do. I'm not looking for that exit plan. I'm not trying to find, the next and greatest thing. I really enjoy what I do.
You've created the perfect balance that allows you to work as much as you want on the business or as little as you want on the business, and it's still going to run. And I guess the real testament is you're having fun and you're smiling at the end of the day.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Behind the smile, there's been our I tell everybody we've had our winters before, and that's something that we always have to look at. Is our winters will always come, and it depends how we want to react to it and how we're preparing ourselves for that. Because during the high tides, we're all riding it and we're all enjoying it, but there are winters in construction. Whether you want to believe it or not. And
so let's jump on that. I interviewed Cammie Beckert, Camelot Homes out of Arizona, and she did business coaching as well, building coaching. And one thing that she shared was that we have protected ourselves. We built up walls that we are recession proof and that we can ride through the storms. So, and you're a savvy thinker, just like her. You drop that in there. What have you done as a company then? You've just diversified that you're not reliant on any one market segment. What are you doing that you're in a position now where you can weather a storm?
Well, for us in general, it's we incorporate now like design services, right? So we know the design process isn't a 1 or 2 month process or even a year process. Sometimes there's 3 years because we're doing some major track maps or anything like that. That's one. The second thing is we start working on entitlement services and entitling lands and helping individuals with that. So, not saying that we're recession proof because I don't believe anybody ever is recession proof because when a market falls, everybody is feeling it, right? But I just feel we're not just contractors, we are designers, we help with entitlements, we help with project management services as well. So we're not always building, right? We're actually helping other builders manage their projects. So that kind of opens the door for us to be able to diversify, I would say. And we're always looking at, what's out there. Like one of our big things right now is fire resistant construction. We've partnered up with Gigacrete based out of Las Vegas, and they have a fire resistant assembly, which pretty much, take a fire to it and that structure will still be standing. And we have projects that could attest to that. One in Malibu that it's the only house that's standing, compared to all the other houses around it. So we're always looking at other ways that we're going to be able to generate business in our industry.
Are those modular homes? So it's a composite of limestone. There are three ingredients that make up the skeleton. They're insulated in the middle, and they're literally like Lego blocks that you can, they just put one on top of the other, and with a rubber mallet, they're knocking them into place.
Yeah, in a way it is, but it's not considered modular construction because we are using steel stud framing. So
Okay.
California considers it type 2 construction. So it allows you to get still a loan on it and everything like that. So we're not modular.
What do you see? Like right now, I've got this really cool position where I get to interview guys like you, and I'm playing with the guys that are doing 3D printed homes or doing modular homes. There's so much in terms of the technology that's coming down the pipe. For you, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Are you managing to keep up with everything that's coming?
I mean, it's great. I mean, I can tell people you're going to be a stick builder, you're going to get stuck there, and in about 5 years, you won't be stick building anymore, right? So you got to be able to pivot and adjust yourself to the market. And that's why I say continuing the education is huge because you don't know what's out there that's coming out that's about to make a difference in the way we build today.
So tell me about that vision. What do you see 5 years from now? What's it going to look like?
I don't see us using lumber as much. We're the only country that builds with lumber. And I mean, I see this new product I don't even want to say it's new. It's been around for many years, but now it's really making a staple in the community. We're working with people in the Altadena and Palisades area that were affected by the fires. And, we're going to be building with this type of construction. And it's not a matter of if it's going to burn again, it's a matter of when it's going to happen again. Right. And so I tell people it's a peace of mind knowing that your structure will be able to withstand this in the future if it were to happen again. We don't want to say that, but I mean, again, it's not a matter of, if it's going to happen, it's when it happens. If I wasn't doing research out there on, alternative building, I would have never stumbled across it. I literally did my research on it, went down to the factory, understood what they were doing. I really see the potential in these, different ways of building. I see what can happen. I could see the change that's going to be revolutionizing in the United States. Because if other countries are building like this and they're withstanding hurricanes or, tornadoes, things like that, like, why wouldn't we be using that here in the States?
Well,
Right?
and bugs and infestation, pestilence, all that kind of stuff as well. At the end of the call, I'm just having a brain moment here. I can't think of the name of the company. I think they're out of, I want to say Colorado or Arizona, but they're doing the same thing. I'll put you in touch with them. I'll send you some info. the CEO used to fly F-16s. Like he's a fighter pilot, and
Mhm.
his story was just fascinating. And they were telling me how it wasn't so much the parent company, but the company that they were working with at the time was doing everything in either Newfoundland or Nova Scotia is where they were testing everything because the winds, the snow, the changes in temperature were extreme from one to the other.
Right,
And these homes were able to withstand it all like nothing.
right. It's crazy,
Yeah.
right? I've seen the product and being used even on the pipelines in Africa where they would be blowing them up. Now they coat this thing with this material and they can't blow it up. What happens is that the impact dissipates through the whole coating. And so now they're upset that they can't destroy pipelines because of this coating. And this is what we're using to build these houses. So you could just imagine the testing that's been done on this product.
That's
So
crazy.
I tell people it's, just continue to educate yourself on the different methods that are coming out of building because we're not going to be using lumber, in the near future. I look at.
You've got the perfect mindset for this because you're not intimidated by the future. You're embracing the fact, hey, it's coming. There's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
So, what can I do to stay in pace with it, and how do we take advantage of it as a company?
Yep, exactly. And so that's why I say like our whole thing is always seeing what's out there. Go to the trade show, see what's being, brought out. You'd be surprised of what products are out there and the opportunities that, other contractors have to go out there and learn it and be able to implement it in the future to come or even, on one of their own projects that they want to do.
You're doing all this coaching with builders. Are you? I don't want to say being coached by a builder, but do you have any kind of like a mastermind group that there's a bunch of you that will gather, share ideas, or no?
I think one of my bigger circles when it comes to that is the NHCA, the National Hispanic Construction Alliance, and our board of directors. We're on a call every 2 weeks, and I start the call off with what are our wins for the time being, and what are our challenges. And I think that's an opportunity for us to really grow and actually be able to soundboard off of one another.
So you dropped that selfless promotion there. Let's unpack that a bit more. Tell us about the alliance.
So the alliance was started. Our first chapter, which is our chapter, the Los Angeles chapter, back in May, and we were at 2,500 members over 7 chapters throughout the country. And it's basically, a group of contractors, whether you're a general, a specialty, architects, engineers, deputy inspectors, any profession that touches the construction industry, right? It's a group that, we have all these chapters throwing on different events, and it's really empowering the Latino community to actually go out there and grow. So you can be non-licensed and be part of the group, and we'll help you get licensed. We'll figure out what it's going to take. Or maybe you're licensed and you just haven't broke that big deal, right? Well, guess what? You have the opportunity to meet some of these bigger developers and contractors to possibly get work. And then you have the seasoned contractor, right? That hasn't developed for themselves, but has developed for others. Now we're teaching them how to do that part of it and being able to develop their own development. And then you have developers that, have been doing this for a while. And it's now, well, I want to scale my developments now. I'm done doing 4 units. I want to get into like 20 units now. What do I need to do? And it's helping them to scale that way as well. So we're able to touch everybody that's in the construction industry and really giving them the platform to grow.
What we're working on with the alliance right now with Sergio is the ability for builders to be able to underwrite their own projects.
Yes.
Because that's the missing link. How do I go from, pouring the concrete or building the frames? How do I actually start building?
Right.
Or if I'm already doing like where you were once upon a time building a home, how do I scale that to be able to go to 10, 20, 50, whatever that number is?
Correct.
So I'm really excited about the alliance that's being formed right now between Sound Capital, Builder Straight Talk, and with Sergio and you guys. It's going to be exciting. And I'll see your smiling face at the big conference. So again, here's another opportunity, shameless plug. Tell us about the upcoming conference.
So the upcoming conference with the NHCA at Advanza in San Diego, that's going to be this is going to be our second year at this conference, pretty much. but I feel we're taking it now to another level, right? We gave everybody the scratch of the surface of what the NHCA was, and now that we're bringing on these other, what did Sergio call them? These other opportunities and platforms that are going to help builders build. Basically, it's called building the builder, and that's where I think Sound Capital and them are getting together on, helping finance these deals.
Oh,
And
he called me the other day. He was like a little schoolboy. He was excited because he just signed up to Watt and Lowe's
yeah,
are two of the sponsors. So, good on him for pulling that one off.
yeah,
And I couldn't understand how come you couldn't get GM or Ford or Dodge, any of the local truck dealers to want to be where, hey, builders that buy trucks are going to be. I still can't get that through my head.
it's like I said, I feel right now the car market too is going through its recession mode, right? You're seeing cars not being moved around a lot. So I feel that they don't see the opportunity to invest their investment to something like us. But again, someone's going to come up and swoop up and they're going to be like, I should have done it. And this is what I tell people when, you have the idea of like, you know what, should I do this or should I not? I go back to my own story, right? I should have done this earlier, right? It's the same thing. You should have done this earlier. Invest in these organizations that are coming up and coming, because the mission is strong, and the people behind it, we as a collective community and members are really pushing for this. So I don't know why they're so hesitant. The car market will always come back, right? But it's
Yeah,
making that initial investment to actually, you know, put yourself in front of 2,500 members. And guess what? If Dodge wants this, I mean, I drive a Dodge and I love my Dodge. And I told the owner, I'm like, dude, why don't you sponsor? And he's like, oh, the market right now. I'm like, you're looking at the dollar sign. You're not looking at the dollar signs that are to come, right?
There's no tears being wept here for the truck dealerships because when they were gouging people 20,000 because they could,
Yep.
I think that they're feeling it now because people aren't stupid. And when you look at the fact that like a Denali here on this side of the border,
Hmm.
90,000, like you can blow 100 grand on a truck without even giving it a second thought. And I look at that and I'm thinking, guys, like why not buy something that's 2 or 3 years old? You're going to be driving the crap out of it anyway. It's a business truck.
You're gonna
It's
beat it.
guys like you that drive the Denalis because you don't work anymore and your hands are all nice and soft. But for the real guys, the real men out there that have to work,
Hey,
man, I just
don't discredit me so much, Michael. I still get out there and I'll still do things. Trust me.
yeah. We could take that up when I see you in September there at
Yeah.
the thing. Let's go back there. There was something I missed that I wanted to cover. And again, this is part of the growth formula when you first started out. So you've done that first home for $1.5 million. Okay.
Mhm.
And you did relatively well. I take it like everybody was happy at the end of it.
Right.
What was the next, what do I want to call it, major aha moment when you realized that, you know what, I am a builder, that this is actually taking off as a career?
I want to say I guess the next aha moment, like you said, was, hmm, I know what it was. So after that, I got a call from a person who had driven by that project, and the owners, for some reason, just like they continue to leave my sign out the front. They had pride that I built their project. So, that sign sat out there for about a year, I want to say. And they even called me and told me, hey, you might want to come and replace your sign. It's faded. So
Replace the side.
I was
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
what homeowner does that, right? But it was great. And so this person is driving by, calls me and says, hey, I saw the home you built. Question is, do you do commercial properties? And I said, oh, I'll be honest with you. I only did one commercial property while working, at a previous firm, but not through my own firm. And they said, hey, you know what? What's the worst that could happen, right? Like, if you can build a house, you can build a commercial thing, a commercial building. And I was like, all right, you know what? Let me look at the plans and let's take a look at it. And so look at the plans. I go, oh my God, this is like easy, right? This is going to be just, they have the shell. I got to just build the inside and we're good to go. And so again, I go back to that whole, if I should have done this sooner, right? I was always advertising I am a residential builder. Like I only do residential. And so then this opportunity comes knocking about commercial, and I'm just like, I'm glad I said yes to it because then it just opened up the doors for other doctors to call me to do their offices. I had realtors calling me to, fix up their realty office, or, hey, Adrian, I have a property we're flipping. Can you help me with it? And through that commercial project, I feel the kind of the floodgates kind of opened with that. So
Is there a point that you have to be ready to be able to do that as opposed to trying to be all things to all people at the beginning? Like if you had said commercial, residential, but you're still getting, how do I want to say, you're still, I don't want to say taking your lumps, but you're still honing your craft as you will
right.
with your business at residential. Like would it have been too early to say, oh yeah, now we're doing commercial and industrial and everything else?
I feel that's like it's based on the person at that point, right? I've always dealt well with stress, right? I have my morning routines, right? Things like that. And so I tell people if you're a very stressful person, don't take on more than what you can't handle. And so you learn how to manage your stress and you're able to, I guess, I tell people leave the bullshit at the door, right? Because don't get me wrong, we do take some of our stuff back home with us. And I feel that when people are bringing their work home and lashing out at family or things like that, like you're not ready to level up. You got to do some internal work at that point. So if you're ready for it, yeah, for me, I felt like I was ready for it. I felt like, you know what, I can take it on. Let me just do it. And so I did it. And it wasn't easy because during that time, my grandpa was, sick and he had passed away. And so I was going through some emotional things at that point. And so I felt like I had taken on a lot of work or, two different avenues and everything like that. But I had to go back and really understand myself and do some, get my coaches and be like, all right, I need to work through some things. And that's what I did. I worked on myself, worked on some stuff, and it's kind of made me I can't say it has made me a better person, right, in business. And
Adrian,
so
would you consider yourself a spiritual guy?
I do. That's one of my morning routines. Is like before plopping out of the bed, I wake up and I just give thanks to God every day that I've been given another opportunity to make a change in the world, whatever that may be. And so I always tell people I'm always looking to make a difference. I'm not looking for recognition or anything like that, but if I can make a difference in someone's life, then that makes me happy at the end of the day.
It's interesting. You say that there was a builder from Arizona, Jim Lawler Homes, that I interviewed. And he said there was a point in his life, his wife works with him in the business. And I don't know if it was a recession, but whatever it is, he said, Michael, the waters were rising and I thought we were done. I thought that was it. Where do we go? And I said, at that point, I just turned everything over to God. And I said, God, take us where you want us to go. And me being me, one sentence ahead of my brain, I say, okay, I realize Jesus was a carpenter, but I don't think he was a savvy business guy. You didn't just turn everything over. And he said, no, that's not what I mean. But our company became more spiritual. We introduced prayer into the office. It became part of who we are as a company. And we're not trying to exclude anybody,
No,
but this is one of our core values. It's
yeah,
what we believe in.
I kind of similar. I introduced philanthropy into the business. I mean, don't get me wrong. A couple of years ago, I literally felt like I was throwing in the towel too. Sleepless nights, attorney calls every other day. It was, shit hit the fan, and I was like, "What the hell just happened?" Right? It was a moment like I tell you, I don't consider anything a failure, but it was a lesson. There was lessons behind the events that had led up to this, and I really took that in, and I was like, "Man, what do I need to change so that this doesn't happen again?" If I was able to start a company, there's no reason that I can't restart and be able to succeed again, right? I mean, I've done it once, I can do it again. And so the important thing is to learn what my lessons were from there. And don't get me wrong, there was times I looked up and I questioned. I'm like, dude, are you really up there? Like, are you? I mean, are you? Like, what's going on? And it was amazing that I started making this thing called a living vision, basically. And it was really is what gave me the foresight to be able to be like, you know what, like this is where I'm going to take the company. This is what we're going to do. And this is how we're going to do it. And this is how I'm going to make sure I hit my goals and everything like that. And so now I tell people this is what my goal is with the company, with the organization. This is what I want to be able to accomplish. If you're with me, you're with me. And if you're not, guess what? You can come along with the ride with me too if you want, So again, it's like, we become, I don't like to say spiritual, but I become really aware of like the higher being, right? Like I know God's there watching me and everything like that. But sometimes you just have to surrender yourself
Yeah.
to be able to really embrace what was sent to you and be like, all right, this is what happened. This is what I learned from it. Let me go back to my processes. Let me change things up here and let's move forward. And I think that was like my hardest thing was, being able to acknowledge that. It took me a while because I was sitting on, I told people I was like overseeing this whole kingdom, right? But I didn't see the army in the back coming to the kingdom. And
Yeah,
so
I don't want to dig too deep into what happened there, but it sounds like this would be an interesting story. Over a cerveza
yeah,
somewhere. I use that word spiritual, and maybe because it's the politically correct thing, because if you say God, people become offended, which is really weird. Like back in the days of COVID, so it would have been like 2022, 23. I was teaching realtors how to do video marketing. So I'm traveling all over US and Canada and making a really good living out of a passion. Like what you have for building, I'm teaching people and lighting them up, and you can see making an impact. And like that, I watched 150K disappear because all these speaking gigs were just canceled. Right. And I started drinking, and I'm not an avid drinker, but dark rum and orange juice was the poison of choice.
Right.
And the orange juice was just there for convenience because it was an easier way to get the rum in. And I was doing that at night. Like I couldn't sleep. I just couldn't turn my brain off. And I found that I got into this habit of 11 o'clock at night. I'd start watching the late shows, whatever movie was on, and I'd be pounding these things back, and then I'd be going to bed around 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. And at the time, we were doing a major renovation here. I live in a train station, and I'll send you some pictures. It's a wild place, but we had no stairs. I just had a ladder.
Oh, wow.
Going from the crawl space to the second floor, right? So one night I'm climbing up this ladder, and I don't know what I did, but the ladder started tilting backwards.
Oh,
right?
shoot.
And at this point, I'm having a three-way conversation with God, gravity, and the platform, holding that. And neither one's going to end well is kind of the way I'm evaluating it. But somehow I managed to lurch the ladder so it hit the platform again, went to bed. Next morning, I poured out everything. And then I started this ritual of every morning at 7 o'clock or 6:30, actually, when I get up, I go for a walk, and I call it my conversations with God. And I didn't call it that at the time. It was just me trying to figure out, look, you knucklehead, like, what have you done to yourself? Like, what are you doing to yourself? Because this won't end well.
No.
Right. And so I would ask myself a question. And as I'm walking, I live out in the country, so I'm not surrounded by skyscrapers. It's trees and rivers and everything. I would get an answer, not immediately, but a walk is 4.5K, so it works out to being about an hour. But within that time period, there would always be a voice that would come back to me. And it wouldn't necessarily be the answer that I wanted to hear. And that's why I started calling it my conversations with God, because I will give thanks that there is a God that will, what do you want to say, take the time, but that if you ask, is there.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, okay, is there somebody there? I'm not hearing you. Well, it's not that I don't hear you. You're not asking the right questions. Adrian, you're not asking the right questions. And I think I was in that same, yeah.
Yeah, I actually cold plunge every morning at 44 degrees, for 3.5 minutes. And literally those are the moments that I start hearing the guide, right? Like start hearing God, like, this is the next step. This is the next speed bump. This is what we got to get through.
Yeah, the next step is God telling you to get your balls out of the cold water. That's the next step.
Yeah, right. That's the next step. But I mean, that's my time that like it's a complete reset for me, I feel. And believe it or not, like I've had many great conversations in that short time, like just like, you know what? Like, oh shit, why didn't I see this before? Like, this is something now I can pivot around. This is something that we can clear up. This is something, right? Like, you just, to me, it's just like it initiates that focus again. Like, it's like, let's go. Right. I always tell people, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I talk to God every morning. That's my thing. And so, I'm glad you shared that with me.
Man, there's so much more I want to get into. This is like we're just scraping the top of the iceberg here. So there's definitely going to be part 2, part 3, and to be continued.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's wrap it up with this. I've got a question, and I think it's fitting for who you are and what you just shared. I want you to pretend, and this isn't going to happen for many, many decades, I hope, knock on wood, as they say, but you're at St. Peter's Gate. And St. Peter, because AI and everything, he's got his iPad and he's flicking through, and here's Adrian's story. And he says, hey, come on over here. I want you to take a look. Then he's flicking through, looks at you, he looks at this one, keeps going. Then he says, no, not today, because you've got something left to do. What is that something?
It's funny that you say that because I had this opportunity to go build in Ensenada, Mexico at the beginning of the year. I'm going to go build a little, 18 by 18 square for a family that was living in a trailer that had holes all over it. When it rained, water got in, they slept on it, right? Horrible living conditions. And I've always wanted to build for families in need like that here in the States. But because there's so much red tape in the States to do something like this, right? You can't do it. So when I went to Ensenada and I did this, like it literally like filled a gap that was in my heart. I came back like, you know what? I'm going to sponsor a build like that in Ensenada, right? And so to me, I feel like if I'm at the gates and they said, nope, you're not coming back today, I feel that's what it is I feel that I want to be able to build at least 100 homes in Ensenada like that for families. And so if I'm able to do something like that, that is the goal there, to be able to build those homes for them.
We're looking at doing 1 million doors with Sound Capital, my friend. Maybe that's part of the vision.
Maybe. Hopefully it is.
I've had a great time speaking with you. Like I said, I think there's more conversations to come, my friend.
Oh, I believe so too. Trust me. And thank you, Michael, and everybody at Sound Capital that's, backing this up.
Oh, by the way, if they want, it'll be in the show notes anyway, but if they want to find out more about you, Adrian, where do you want them to go?
I mean, they can go to our company webpage, AVICAConstruction.com, or, they want to hear some of the mentoring and coaching that we do. We also have a podcast called One Stud at a Time. You can find that through, all the platforms, YouTube, Spotify, you name it, it's on there.
I got to say, one step at a time. I watched some of the episodes and you crack me up, man. Like your style, you're just, I'm on the couch, I'm chilling back. I'm just waiting for somebody to, come in with, chips or something. It's a really good vibe. Really, really good vibe.
We just filmed with Sergio a few days ago, so that's awesome. Good fun.
I will see you in San Diego, my friend.
You, Michael. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for having me.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to Builder Straight Talk. Make sure to like, comment, and share this episode on your favorite social media platform. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, available wherever you get your podcast streaming fix. Until next time, keep building smarter. This episode is made possible by our parent company, Sound Capital, funding built for builders.